person can recognize?
Miss, we didn't start the video. Sorry.
Whose video is good? Both.
Both.
So you stay with the 1, 2, 3 start and then go. So the recording is recording.
Good afternoon, everyone. Did you know that an average person can recognize 20,000 to 40,000 words? It's a huge amount, isn't it? So today we are presenting about human word recognition. So at the end of this presentation, you will be able to know about two terms: lateralization, localization, and different word recognizing theories, and how do we perceive the words and the mental lexicon. So we will be starting with lateralization and localization by myself, Mithumini Rupasinghe, and then we will be talking about universal grammar in the context of language acquisition by Kushani Nathmini, and then how words understood by Kiara Kalat, and word recognition theories by Vihendra Mayadunna, and mental lexicon by Dasani Karunasinghe. Finally, the speech perception by Derek Pereira. So let us first define the brain. So what is lateralization? Our brain is divided into two hemispheres, left hemisphere and right hemisphere. Each of these hemispheres has different responsibilities. As you can see on the screen, the left hemisphere is typically dominant for word processing, the language processing, word recognition, and the word comprehension. And then the right hemisphere is typically dominant for emotional expressions and the holistic ideas and creativity. So that is what we call as lateralization. So there are a lot of evidence done to prove this concept. So the neuroscientists they have taken some brain injured persons and the patients, and they have taken the split brain. We call it as split brain because these two hemispheres are interconnected. There is a thick nerve bundle we call as corpus callosum. So through this corpus callosum, these two hemispheres are interconnected. But in split brain patients, the connection is no more there, or injured or damaged. So then the two hemispheres are worked individually. So now we are moving to localization. What is localization? So as you can see, in our brain we can see the cortex, that is the covering. So this cortex is divided into 4 lobes. As you can see here, so the frontal lobe, parietal lobe, temporal lobe, and occipital lobe. Each lobe has their own duties, and even these lobes also divided into many parts. So they have specific functions. Then, for example, in the frontal lobe, the left hemisphere, frontal lobe, there is a Broca's area, and in left hemisphere, temporal lobe, there is Wernicke's area. So the Broca's area mainly dominant for, and that is where we produce our language, while the Wernicke's area help us to comprehend the language. So there are a lot of evidence for localization as well. For example, the scientists taken some the brain injured patients, and those who got damaged or injured in Broca's area, they have lack or poor the language producing skills, and some of them they are very they cannot produce the language, and those who got damaged or injured in the Wernicke's area, they are poor in comprehend the language comprehension. So there are not only these evidence. So in these days the technology is well developed, and there are a lot of neuroimaging such as fMRI and PET scans. So through that, after my presentation, I will show you how these the areas works when we recognize a word, when we get lexical entry, how it assess and identify the word. So then, as you can see here, there are many parts, and then these parts have different functions, and we call it the localization. And there are so many evidence. Even nowadays, we have neuroimaging like fMRI and PET scans. So, to wrap up, the localization and lateralization is very complex idea, where we produce and where we comprehend the language. So I am moving to the short video clip, then you can identify how we enter the lexicon and how we select the lexicon from our mental lexicon and how we identify, recognize the words. This video is about modern neuroimaging technique, and when these parts are activated, they have different signals. So then those parts are highlighted in the PET scan. And here you can see the speed, how fast we can recognize a word. Okay, then Kushani will take her turn to explain about world famous hypothesis, universal grammar. Over to you, Kushani.
Okay, first of all, let me ask you two questions. So, do we live to it or it to live? Do we live to it or it to live? What do you think? Okay, if I ask you like this, are we born with language or we are just using language because we are born? Are we born with language or we are just using language because we are born? Let's see. The universal grammar hypothesis. This is a hypothesis and not still proven as a theory. So this is coined by an American linguistic called Noam Chomsky. And he says human brain is hardwired with a basic set of roles that all human languages share. Now let's see the role of universal grammar in word recognition. So universal grammar provides the knowledge of syntactic categories. So what are syntactic categories? If a child is presented with, if a child is heard a word in the position of the subject, so he or she can recognize that it is the noun. So if a child has seen a word in the position of the subject, he or she can recognize that it is a noun. For example, let's get the sentence, the dogs bark. So the children can recognize that the dogs is the noun of the sentence just because it is in the position of the subject. The second one is to analyze words morphologically. Children divide words into morphemes or morphological categories to recognize words. For example, the word play. So if it is broken into morphemes, it is play and ed. Play and ed. So the ed is the children knows that ed is the past tense, past form of the ed is the past tense marker. So they recognize this word play as the past form of the word play. The third one is universal grammar provides children with expectations about the possible combinations of sounds that can occur in a word. So universal grammar helps to filter out non-words from words. So if a child is seeing the word AKSED, this is a non-word, but as soon as they see this word, they can recognize that this is a non-word, even though this is a word-like non-word. So this happens just because of the universal grammar embedded in our mind. So I'll tell you one evidence for universal grammar for the role of universal grammar in word recognition. So, in the case of bilingual children, they learn two languages at the same time. So, how can this happen? So, they exposed into one language, each language, for a very short period of time. But they master two languages, their first language and their second language. So, this also happens just because of the universal grammar embedded in our minds. Now, it's over to you, Kiara, to talk about how language is understood.
So let's take a look at how language is received and processed in the brain. Language is a system of symbols that humans use to express thoughts and emotions through communication with others. Language can be spoken, written, or signed, and can also shape how people think, act, and sometimes reveal their beliefs and personal perspectives. Bruce, 1958, once stated that words in a meaningful context are recognized better against background noise than words out of context. And we take nearly twice as long to recognize a word which is presented in isolation out of the context of a sentence in which it occurs. So as you can see, there are three main ways that gives us a solid view on how this happens. The first one is called possible word constraint. The second one is called stress-based segmentation, and the third one is called syllable-based segmentation. Possible word constraint defines that word constraints are morphological and phonological rules that limit the possible shapes of words in a language. They can also help in word segmentation, which is a task of finding the boundaries between words in speech. Stress-based segmentation is a method of dividing an object or material into regions based on the level of stress applied to it. For an example, if I say we have detected a pea plantation disease, stress-based segmentation can be used to identify the serious damage caused to plantation because the word disease is stressed out. The third one is syllable-based segmentation. Syllable-based segmentation is a process of dividing words into smaller units called syllables. Syllables are groups of sounds that form a single unit of speech, usually containing a vowel sound. So, for example, if you take the word segmentation, it has 4 syllables when we divide the word into separate parts. Finally, let me define what categorical perception is. Categorical perception is one of the important characteristics of speech perception. It allows us to distinguish sounds, no matter how varied or similar they may be. Let me give you 2 examples. So when you distinguish the sounds between b and p, we are capable of understanding and categorizing the difference. So humans have the ability to differentiate between 2 components that are completely different and still interpret its different characteristics at the same time. So let's move on to word recognition. Over to you.
So word recognition. We read words, right? We hear words and we understand them. Ever wondered how? Here are 3 theories which explain the system of word recognition. First, we have Foster's autonomous serial search model. Foster states that the word recognition system is divided into parts, and there are 3 major types of access files which are used to recognize a word: the orthographic, meaning the visuals; phonologic, the sounds; and syntactic semantic, the meaning. As you can see, these 3 access files together recognize the word and is later cross-referenced in the master lexicon. Next, we have interactive activation models of word recognition. This model is inspired by the work of neurons in our nervous system, or to be more specific, the response of the said neurons to certain types of stimuli. It says that there are 3 levels in recognizing a word. the visual features, the lines and curves. This leads to a second level, the letters. This leads to a third level, the words. Third and final, we have the logos and model. These based on the defining characteristics of words. Morton has compared this model to the workings of a light bulb. You see, there needs to be a certain amount of energy for light bulb to light up. If that energy is not received, the light bulb doesn't light up. Simple as that. He says that the word recognition system is similar to that. If the required input is not given, the word cannot be recognized. If that input is given in the forms of visual, auditory and semantic stimulus, the word can be recognized. And over to Dasuni for mental lexicon.
Mental lexicon. Okay. Mental. It is brain. Okay. Lexicon means words. Okay. Then mental lexicon. Language words are mentally represent an organized way, systematic way in the brain. Actually, every word we acquire from the outside world. So, these words, these lexicons, using notes, we call for lexicon, we can call notes or systematic lexical entries. We can call for that systematic entries also. So, using these notes, the word enter to the brain, enter to the brain, and it first step by step try to identify similar features what words already stored in our memory. That is called lexicon dictionary. This is actually the dictionary what is stored already in our brain. That is called lexicon dictionary. This is possible that there may be more than one path. Yes, there may be more than one path. For an example, one can take the highway to go from one city to another city. Just think, we need to go from Colombo to Galle. We can directly take highway road. In addition to that, we have Galle road too. But that means not similar places. But in addition to that, we have other short roads, we have bypass roads, we have various ways to go there. Next. These paths, I have already told you, there are according to systematic path, there are many ways. We call for that models. First one is hierarchical network model. Second one, systematic feature model. Third one, spreading activation method. Word spreading, step by step spreading. The ACT model. Fifth one, the morphological rule-based method. Give you an example. Wonder. So we have words already stored in our brain. Wonderful, wonder. Okay. This is related under this morphological rule-based method. And next one, the logo-Witten model, and last one, autonomous search model. So let's see this one, the hierarchical network model. This model actually find the semantical features. This is come under the semantical memory. Semantical memory means it comes under the long-term memory. That is the category of long-term memory, semantic memory means. According to this model, all concepts, all nodes, all words arranged in according to the pyramid. It's like a pyramid arranged. So these words, I have already told you, these words can introduce nodes or lexical entries. These are lexical entries, and these are the features. Word enter to the brain, and it finds similar words or similar features. Animal, bird, fish, likewise. This is spreading activation model. When we heard this word chips, it's connect with word fish, and see the features. It has scales. It is eaten by cat. These are the words already stored in our brain. So this is the new nodes, and these long lines connecting these two concepts. It means that it doesn't have a close relationship, but this means it has a common. This means it has a common features. It has a close relationship. So depending on the length of the line, we can identify their compact, identify the relationship in the between the concept, and those squares are nodes of the network presenting concept. The length of the lines means a compact degree of relationship. So if we can find out the more than one lines between two nodes being, it is compact relationship between two nodes. Okay, I invite to Derek to represent about the speech perception.
Well, let me explain you actually how word is understood. It is understood. Some scholars say it is grammar what is important and the heart of the language, while some scholars say it is speech. I believe it is speech because how much you learn language. So when you speak only, you can display what you know. And when you write, you can take time and you can keep spaces and you can edit it. But when it comes to speak, when you were asked to answer some question, you have to ask then and answer then and here. Normally, humans can understand 20 phonemes in a second. So that is so fast. Spoken words are present only very briefly, whereas written words are, as long as we have to keep them, it is there. So therefore, we have to be very mindful when it comes to speaking. And special thing is there is no space while speaking. In written, there is a space, and we can't avoid speaking. We have to listen. We have to hear. We can't refuse, but in writing, we can avoid. The importance of context. So let me explain you with an example. So let's say I am walking, then while I am talking, there are two people talking about something. So I don't know who are them. So I overhear actually 2-3 words, but I don't know what they are talking about. But if they are my friends or my enemies, so if I know if something happened previous day, so when I get 1 or 2 words, I know what they are talking about. That means we get language through context, with context. So that is a good example. That is what Booth said in 1958. So this is the process, language comprehension to language production. This is the process. Usually we have all learned Wernicke's areas is responsible for comprehension. So we get input into Wernicke's areas, and then we process, and then it goes to broadcast area for production. But do you think it directly goes to broadcast areas from Wernicke's area? No. It first goes to the place called arcuate fasciculus, then it processed, and then goes to broadcast area. So from here from 1 to 3, there is a short distance, but it goes around it. So it is like this. So recently India launched a rocket called Chandrayaan-3, and they sent it to the moon. It took about 40 days. But when he calculated the distance, it should not take 40 days. But so recently I also got to know, it doesn't straightly go there. Then first it orbits around the Earth so many times, and then when it closes to the moon, then again it orbits around the moon, then only it lands. So likewise it takes a time to process, then only goes to the moon. So that is the same idea. Alright, then it is conclusion. So let me conclude what all my members discussed. First we talk about the Laplaciation and localization. Then we talk about the word recognition and the universal grammar part. Then words, how words are understood and how words are recognized. Then how mental lexicon works. And finally I discuss about the word speech perception. So these are references. We refer 7 journal articles. Yes, so learning a language, learning another language means like we are looking at the world through another window. So it is the question and answer time. If you have any questions, so please ask, we are able to answer.